Hello everybody, welcome to the World of Brickfilms podcast. I am your host, William of IW Studios. This is part 2 of the Untitled Chapter 2 special. In this episode we talk to Loïc, the composer behind the film, as well as a legendary composer during the Brickfilms.com era. We had a really great conversation. I hope you enjoy it. It's really interesting to talk to somebody, more on the music and sound design side of things, and it makes for a really great listen. So without further ado, here is the episode. So now is the next part of the podcast. A special guest. How do you pronounce your name?
Loïc.
Okay.
Have a good luck with that. I'm Loïc Desjardins.
Okay, thank you. Yes. So I think I should explain how I got Loïc involved with Untitled Chapter 2. Which, it basically goes back to like when I was starting to watch a lot of Brickfilms in 2007. All the old Brickfilms from Brickfilms.com from throughout the years were being uploaded roughly around 2007. And, most of them didn't have any original music. But very occasionally you'd see people like Chris Salt or Jay Silver. Some of their films had original music, which was by, you'd see this name, Loïc Desjardins, keep appearing in the credits. And which always stood out because it was original music and it sounded good as well. Like, also, some films from 06 had music by The Duke, which it was nice that the music fit like what was going on in the films, but it had a very like homemade MIDI sound quality to it. Whereas Loïc's music sounded a lot more professional, which stood out. And I guess, Loïc, you didn't do a large number of Brickfilms, but you managed to be involved with some of the like major well-remembered films of the era, especially Rapunzel, which had a bunch of parody films made after it, and around the time when I was starting Brickfilming, Bowling for Sandrico came out, which I guess is probably the most widely known Brickfilm that has original music that you did. It has something like 6 million views on YouTube by now, I think. When I was starting to make Untitled Chapter 2, I had this idea in mind that any voice actors I brought on should be people who are from the era that the original Untitled Chapter came out in, so around 2003. So, there was the henchman who needed a British accent, so I decided I should ask Chris Salt to do that. And in the voiceover at the start, I thought Jay Silver would be perfect for that. So then that got me thinking, if I was to get somebody to do original music for the film, the number one name in mind is Loïc, but I was thinking, should I ask him? Like, he hasn't been active in Brickfilming in years, and I've never had any prior contact with him. But I sent an email and explained the backstory behind the film, and asked if he'd be willing to, do the music for it. And so he said yes, and I think it worked out very well in the end.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that the music greatly elevated the film.
Thank you very much.
I do think that that's definitely something that I found was watching a lot of the Brickfilms that you composed in the year 2000s. Like, a lot of it really, it really holds up really well for the time, because I think like Penta said, there were quite a few films, especially into I think the later 2000s, that had more original music, but it did definitely feel quite homemade, whereas I think music that you composed really stood out because it didn't really feel that way at all. It really did feel like a properly professional music.
So I'm guessing you must have had an extensive background in music beforehand.
Yeah. I did actually. I think I went to Brickfilming just to have opportunities to make music. It was my first goal, I'd say. So yes, for a bit of background, so I'm French, and been raised around Paris, and right now I'm living next to Paris. And from 7 or 8, I started to study piano and music theory. And I think I was terrible at both. But I kept on studying that for something like 7 or 8 years. And music theory was kind of okay, but I was still a terrible piano player, and I'm still is. And later on I switched to a punk band So I switched to electric guitar, and I switched to punk band. And punk is the kind of name you find out, the kind of excuse you find out when you don't know actually what you're doing on the guitar. So let's go. So you call it punk, and and that's the way I started to compose, because so far I was just playing pieces on the piano, but it was quite fun, and we were of course very, very bad. I had my first band at the time, and I kept playing with bands, cover bands of many, many styles, mostly blues and rock bands. And at the same time, I was kind of studying this music theory, but not what we call solfège, which is mostly reading, but something a bit more into the composition, into arrangement. And I always listened to a lot of classical music, soundtracks, of course, electronic music, many, many kinds of music, mostly instrumental. So I had a kind of, my ears were very trained to this kind of music. In the late 90s, I started to buy my first libraries, orchestral libraries, and try to fiddle around with that. And by the time they were very bad, but anyway, it was a good way to learn. And I started to study some scores also, which was not really easy because it was just the beginning of internet. There were not many resources, and there was no streaming service, of course, so you had to find music somewhere, sometimes copies, but also I went a lot to the record shop to buy some CDs. And this is how mostly I learned a lot, from kind of theory books, and I'm still studying that side, and also improving my skills using this kind of libraries. And at this time, how I went into Brickfilm, I think it's very accidental. It was, as far as I remember, it was maybe on holidays or maybe a long weekend at my parents' house, not so far. And they found out my big crates full of Lego. And I found this, and just to have fun, I started to animate a minifig walking, shooting picture, as you know. And when I replayed that, I said, hey, that's funny. And maybe I could, I had a kind of lot of spare time by the time. And I said, maybe I can try to animate something, or maybe, just try to make a sequence, not a movie, I'd say, more sequence. And of course, I started to do that. And I say to myself, there is probably other people in the world doing the same thing as me, trying to animate minifigs. And I came across brickfilms.com website. So I joined the community, and I had very quickly connections. And as far as I remember, I was the only French by the time. And I think it was in 98 or 99. Maybe there's a record on the Brickfilms database.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit later than that. The site started at the end of 2000. I'm kind of the history guy in the Brickfilm community. And so, I went into contact, and quite quickly I discovered that making Brickfilms is taking all your time. It takes all your weekends. By the time I was living in Paris, in the center of Paris, a very small flat that was not good at all to shoot movies, because you need some space. I had a lot of music gear also that was taking all the room everywhere, so I was lacking real estate. I was shooting sometimes at my parents' place, movies, and it was kind of complicated, and the outcome was not so good. So after a while, I said to myself, okay, let's focus on the thing I know, which is making music. And I'm just a hobbyist, even though I'm just a hobbyist. I'm not professional. But let's stick to that. And let's try to improve my writing skills, maybe arrangement skills, and let's try to find collaborations, because this is the domain I'm more specialized in, and this is the domain I'm the more helpful
for the community.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way of looking at it, to coming from a place of what you can bring to help the community rather than helping yourself.
There was a lot of demand for music at the time, because I mean, at the time the quality of movies was improving a lot. There were new cameras. There was the Lego Studio, if I remember well. They issued also a kind of webcam that could connect, and you had a software to make your own movies. And actually, so the quality of the movies, the quality of the animation was greatly improving. The quality of sound, a little bit, but not the quality of music. It was still, most of the time, there was no music in the movies, or it was some kind of MIDI files, and sometimes it was ripped off music from, often from famous soundtracks or pop songs or whatever. So there was really little genuine music composed for the movie.
Yeah, I think we often find that the last thing to improve is sound. Even people starting today, like, they will get to a really high level of visuals and animation, but it takes a while to get the sound up to the same level. Even me, like, making Taco Trouble 2, I still felt like I had very little idea of what I was doing with sound, and a lot of your tips are actually very helpful. Tips about room reverb and sound effects being further away and whatnot, and also just the fact that the music sounded so good, it really pushed me to try to make sure that the sound mix was good, because once I put the music into the timeline, I was kind of thinking, this sounds too good, that the film is off balance now, because the music is really good, but I haven't done the sound up to the same standard. So that helped me to have to improve the sound design to the best of my ability.
That's good. That's really good.
'Cause I feel like my sound design in the past hasn't been that good at all. It's just been functional.
Yeah, and I've been also shooting movies by myself, and of course the sound is very at the core of the things I'm really careful about. I don't care so much about the animation and lighting, whatever, but the sound is really dear to me, and the music as well. So in the sound domain, I know also I have a lot of tips and tricks too, and for some of the movies I helped to, or I did myself, I went to record my own sound effects, my own follies.
I think that's a great tip for people, is to record their own sound effects.
And it's really, really fun. yeah, really, really fun. Like the punch on a wet mop, and you punch it, and it sounds really like a punch in the flesh. And there is a lot of books on the market explaining and the tips and tricks to do your own sound effects. But it is definitely something that's really fun to do.
Yeah, I think for Taco Trouble 2, a lot of the original sound I just recorded with my clothes or with a piece of wood or something, just hitting it in different ways. And it's great to be able to match it to the footage exactly, to time it up, so you don't have to spend forever editing each individual little hit or little movement. But yeah, sometimes people in the chat rooms, they might ask, where can I get sound effects? And I'd be thinking, just record them yourself. It's not difficult, and it fits better.
Often it fits better because there are many sound effect libraries, but often they have to be reworked because they are recorded very close. So it's a bit like the sound is a bit in your face, and most of the time you need to change that by EQing or put them in the background, otherwise they take too much room. And what can be good also sometimes, it's just for an ambient sound, you just go to a church and you put a microphone, and that's it, and you got a great ambient sound, because you will hear the people walking, you will hear the hood cracking and all the stuff, and this is really nice. You can just get the recording of that, and I'm talking about church, but it can be any room, it can be a classroom or whatever. There is always sounds, crackles, very, very faint noises, and you can keep that and you put it in the background of your movie at a very low level, but the brain, it catches that. And it adds a lot of realism to your movie.
Yeah, even if it really ties it all together.
Yeah.
It's an element a lot like good editing that kind of just it allows you to be immersed in, you know, what you're watching. And I think it's true as well with editing. Like you don't notice good editing, and in some cases you don't notice good sound. But when that sound is gone, it's just empty. You know, you need that there. And also I think as well there is this issue as well, like with people, like if you want to get like a punch sound from like an audio like library or something, not only is there not many good like punch sounds you can get online from what I found, but also as well you don't want to just have a punch, you want to have like the kind of like low end sounds that come before the punch, like the kind of like the whoosh and the punch. So you need to combine sounds in order to have like one more like solid sound.
That's what the sound designers do. They have heaps of tracks piled together in order to create the perfect noise, and they never take a noise out of a library, or they never record one single sound. They're just mixing them a whole package of sounds together to find the right mood and the right ambience. But it adds a lot to the realism, and our brain is it's an incredible computing machine sound-wise. So even the faintest noise, it helps the brain to position into the space, and it can help making an animation movie far more realistic, because it's putting the movie in a room. Suddenly it becomes really, really more realistic. Even if we're talking about plastic minifigs, talking and making silly stuff, just that, the fact that between the lines there is no silence, there is something, there is an ambient, there is music, there are sound effects, a bit of sound design. It really pushes for the movie forward by a huge leap.
Yeah, so much more immersive. And yeah, that's kind of the mindset I was getting into in making this film, where previously I'd just drop sounds in and, you know, I'd think, okay, the sound occurs at the correct time, that's good enough. But in this one I was thinking, does this actually sound like it's in the room and in the location where it's taking place? And then I'd be doing some EQ or reverb or pan or volume adjustment.
When I watched TT2, the final cut, I was really pleased by what you've done. Yeah,
I'm really glad to hear that. I was hoping that, you know, I was hoping you would think it's okay and not a terrible hack job.
No, it sounded very, very, very good, and I was listening on the great headphone. I've got really great gear here, and I could hear the noises when they walk, when they're touching the stuff, when they're touching the table, when they're everything. And I was thinking to myself, because I'm really focused on sound and music, and I was thinking, hey, good. They thought about that sound, and they thought about that noise and ambience, and there is a little bit of reverb, and there is sound on the left, sound on the right. Yeah, great job.
Thank you. I'm very glad to hear that. Because, yeah, even though I did feel like it was coming out okay, I still, while I was doing it, I was thinking to myself, I still feel like I have no idea what I'm actually doing. I'm just kind of poking at things until I think it seems better. But I guess it worked.
It worked.
For the most recent film that I did, I spent like a similar amount of time to Taco Trouble 2 making it. I started making it in 2018 and I finished last year. And I got to like the end of it. I think I was planning to release it in September, but I decided to delay it because I wanted to like, because technically it was so much better than like previous films I'd done, but it wasn't in terms of sound. So I wanted to kind of spend a good couple of weeks working on it. I ended up spending, I think, about 6 weeks just working on the sound design and making it like better. And I got to talk to a couple of people within the brick filming community, like Tricker Brick, who's really good at sound. And he gave me loads of tips, like watching like rough cuts of the film and stuff. And it's so funny now because I was looking at the because this is like a part of a series, and I was looking at the previous film in the series that I did, and the editing file had like about 4 tracks, including music, and now this one had like I think 12 tracks of just like the sound effects, and then like 2 tracks for ambience, and
Yeah, that's really nice, and we are living in blessed times because all the gear you need to record, all the softwares you need to mix, and all the camera you can use to shoot the movies and do the animation, they are cheap.
Actually, what is the software that you use to create music?
I'm on Mac and I'm using Logic Pro.
Okay.
Logic Pro X. It's the full name. Now I think it has been renamed recently, just Logic Pro. Yeah. So I'm using that. Before, at the time I was doing the Brickfilms, I used Cubase.
And am I correct in thinking that the first brick film you did music for was The Sol Chronicles by Jason?
Yes. Yeah.
So how did you get involved with that project, if you remember?
I don't really remember. By the time, I think I had a couple of collaborations. I remember working with Chris Salt. I remember working with Jay Silver, of course, because we did several collaborations together. I think it just reached. It just reached out and asked me if I was willing to do the music, and there were some projects where didn't go, were abandoned in the way, and it was the case for Jay Silver's Blade Runner spin-off. But yeah.
I would certainly have loved to have seen a Jay Silver Blade Runner film.
Yeah, because he was really, really incredible. What he did was really nice. And together we did also a movie that is not made with Lego. It's a claymation, so it was using only clay. And I remember it was organized by Weta Workshop. You probably know them because Weta is the big company behind Lord of the Rings and big movies like that. And they were running a contest, an animation contest, because I think it's when they were releasing the King Kong DVD. And they were looking probably for some extra content and goodies or whatever to put on the DVD. So they run this competition. So it was about, of course, King Kong and dinosaurs, whatever. And Jay did an incredibly funny animation, and he asked me to do the music, and I did a kind of good music. I really don't like what I'm doing, but this time it was really fitting the action, and we won. I don't know if we were ranked first, but we won something. I think Jay still has he must have a Kong, a feature.
A trophy?
Yeah.
Or a statue?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a statue. And this was a good job, but it was not released among the Brickfilms community because it wasn't made of Lego at the time.
Yeah.
And it's really great. Yeah.
I dug that film up recently, and I shared it with some Brickfilmers. And also I managed to find 2 behind-the-scenes videos that Jay filmed. I think he filmed them very quickly because he needed some proof, like, to show the contest organizers that he actually made the film. So I have a couple of videos where he's going around showing his setup, and like it's an absolutely enormous setup with this impressive camera rig to move the camera, and like there's a reflection of Kong in the water, but it's an entire model underneath the water. It's cool stuff.
Great,
Yeah.
great. This was, I think because he was animating water, so I think it's the most difficult stuff to do, and he did that very well. But we had talk when he was producing the movie, and I think it was really, really hard for him. But yeah, he's very creative, so he found out ways to animate from under the I don't know how he did that, but at the time he explained to me. I think I didn't catch everything. I was just here for the music, so I stick to my domain.
And yeah, the music in that is really great.
The music
sounds
was fun.
really professional. But I think that film, it sort of fell by the wayside because it wasn't Lego. So, the Brickfilmers didn't really know about it, and I don't think he put it on his own YouTube channel. Maybe it became owned by Weta after it won the contest.
Maybe. I think it was for a time it was on YouTube, but I doubt it's still on YouTube. Maybe he had to remove it. I don't know.
Well, I'll keep my link on the down low then.
Yes. It was fun to do.
Yeah, well, hopefully this podcast can draw some attention to it, I guess, and show people the behind the scenes. And so, by the time you did the music for Bowling for Sanderco, I'm guessing that was just Chris Sauce just asked you to come back and do that, because it seems like there's a large gap there.
Yeah, I kind of quit the Brickfilms community, not because I hate the people, but because I had a rough patch in my life at the moment, and I had to stop some activities, and so I stopped brick filmings, and on I started a new job, and whatever. My life changed a lot at the time, and I was doing something. I was having bands, and I was busy, and also I put a lot of energy in making my own movie, which was called Nowhere in Space. I did the first episode. I had a full script. If you want, it's for you. But I had a really long story. I think I was crazy at the time. I had a very, very long story, and I managed to do only the first episode, and it was incredibly difficult for me to do that. Once it was released, I had no energy and no motivation to start episode 2, which was even harder to shoot. There were many scenes I didn't know how to shoot them. I lost motivation in the Brickfilms because of that and other things, as I mentioned. So I stopped joining the community and contributing to the community. But again, it's absolutely not because I had trouble with people, because people here are very, very nice, and I guess it's still the same. The community was so friendly, which is not very often found on the internet.
I feel like, especially back then, online communities were even more at each other's throats. I mean, there was some of that in brick filming at the time as well, but maybe less so. But something I've wondered about for a while is, in the special thanks of the Henri and Edmond film The New Neighbour by Maxime Marion, you're one of the names listed. And I was wondering how you got involved with Maxime Marion and The New Neighbour.
I really don't know. And actually, until recently, I forgot I did something with him. So I guess it's because I was digging my hard drives lately, and I found a lot of projects related to Brickfilms and also other projects. And sometimes I was wondering, it's like I did that like 20 years ago. I think that sometimes I was not in my own mind because it's not possible that I'm forgetting so many contributions I've done. And so I got I was doing that for Maxime Marion. And he is an amazing guy. He is doing incredible animations right now.
Yeah, and also his Henri Edmond films always have incredible original soundtracks.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, I wish I reached him not so long ago just to congratulate him on some stuff he did, but we never collaborate. We just did that, but I'd be happy to, if you can pass the message. No, I'd be happy to collaborate with him. Yeah.
Actually, on that note, I was wondering maybe would you be open to like being commissioned by other brick filmers for large brick film projects that were looking for original music?
Yes, of course. It's just a hobby for me, so it's just pleasure for me. It's just joy to write stuff and make people happy. So yeah, of course, if the project is nice, and I have no doubt that there are lots and lots of very, very good projects right now. Yeah, of course, I'm very open to that.
Yeah, right now there are lots of very impressive projects being made.
I should have a look. No, that's a teaser. I should have a look, definitely.
Yeah, it would certainly be cool to see if you came back and did multiple brick films, multiple scores. But yeah, so the mystery of the new neighbor continues.
Okay.
I guess maybe we'd have to ask Maxime what your role in the new neighbor was.
I mean, maybe he just put special thanks just because he was really inspired by you.
Thanks
for being the first French brick filmer.
Oh yeah. But no, I think when I left the community. Well, I didn't really left the community, let's make it clear. I just was not involved much anymore. There were more French people joining.
Shortly after you left, or you were less around, a French website and community sprang up. So now there's a large French community.
Okay. It's good to know. I didn't know.
Actually, probably one of the biggest communities outside of like the US, I'd think.
Yeah, they got a very big website.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know. I just knew about Brickfilms.com, and there was another community in France, but it was not related to Lego animation. It was any kind of animation.
Well, I think at the time there might have been some people discussing brick filming on Brick Pirate, which is like a French just general Lego website.
I don't remember this one.
Yeah. I'm guessing by then you were probably heavily involved with Brickfilms.com, so you wouldn't need to be looking on a French Lego websites for community.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was kind of busy making music and trying to make my own movies, and the community on Brickfilms again is really great, so I didn't feel like I need to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
It was a safe haven for me.
Actually, I wonder, are there any films you remember from that era, from the Brickfilms.com era? Like, not ones that you did the music for or anything, but just in general, are there any ones you remember that stand out to you as just being very good, or ones that you liked in particular?
Of course, there was J. Silver, Rise of the Empire, based on Star Wars. It drove me crazy. When I think I've watched this movie 20 times in a row just to understand what Jay had done with this one. It was incredible and so fit to the story, to the actual story. It was I don't know if he had the script of the Star Wars the episode 3, but it's so accurate. And I remember, of course, all the movies done by Spite Your Face. They were really funny, and of course Camelot was a really great one.
Yeah, as far as I know, Rise of the Empire was all speculation on Jay's part from before episode 3 came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's certainly seen as a landmark achievement that pushed the boundaries of special effects in brick filming.
Yeah. I know because he was also working shortly after, I guess, on this Blade Runner spin-off. So he was really working a lot on the special effects, which is something that was very new. It's a bit like music. Many movies didn't have that, the special effects, and he was kind of introducing this again in a very professional way. This was very impressive by the time, and also because it required special skills. And I remember that the softwares at the time were really expensive, and you needed some expensive plugins. Everything was so expensive, and you need a good machine also. So it was not for everyone making the FX.
I think those are all good points to bring up, because like obviously nowadays people would look at Rise of the Empire and think like, okay, I'm sure it was good for the time, but I can see how I could do all of these effects. But it would have been much more difficult to just do them at the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There were tutorials and there were a few softwares. I think some people were using Flash, and others were using, I don't remember. It's really old. I think it's softwares that don't exist anymore.
But I'm glad you brought that film up, because I do plan to cover that. I'm working on the next History of Brickfilms video at the moment, which will cover the 2000 to 2003 era of brickfilms.com. And one of the major films I plan to cover is Rise of the Empire, and how it pushed the boundaries of special effects. And actually, I forgot to thank you for sending the library of Brickfilms that you sent over. I worked my way through all of those files and found some very interesting things, and some things that were previously missing that I'd been looking for, like Nightbreaker by Titan Pictures. But there were some things in there that I'd never even heard of, and one that you voiced in that was something about vacuum cleaners. I can't remember what it's called now. It was like the woman and the vacuum cleaners or something. I don't know if you remember this film.
I don't remember it. No.
It was very, very bizarre, and it had some funny voice acting that, judging by the credits, it seems like you were credited for the voice acting.
Maybe. Again, I did a lot of stuff. I was accepting everything, every request. I had the possibility to record my voice in good conditions with microphone or whatever. So sometimes someone would just send me a message and send me a line, and I would just hook the microphone, record it, and send it, and that's done. Yeah. And I don't know what the movie, what use has been made of my voice, and I was, there is a huge collection. I was kind of downloading every new movie that was released. I will download it.
Actually, that does happen to me sometimes. Like, somebody will ask me to record a line or two for a film, and then I'll do it, and then it takes like a year or two to make the film, and then they'll send it to me and say thanks. And I'll be thinking, what? Thanks for what? Why are you sending me this film? And then I'll watch it, and suddenly I'm speaking it. I'm like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, these things happen.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was the last time that you did one of the History of Brickfilms videos, and you said that I'm in I'm in it like very briefly, because you're talking about a brick film that's still active today. And I was like, wait, I voice acted in a brick film? Like, I had no idea. And then I looked, and this brick film that I voiced in like 2017 had just come out, and it was like last year. I was so confused.
Yeah, it takes time. It's a little Hollywood. Some movies take years to be achieved and released.
Yeah, like Taika Trouble 2.
No, but we don't have to deal with actors. That's the good point.
I mean, some films, like some brick films, genuinely take double the amount of time that live action films take. It's really funny.
Actually, what would you say are your main inspirations as far as composers or other musicians go?
That's a good question. I'd say from my early childhood, there were 3 composers I kept listening on, the old tapes that yeah, they are very fashionable right now. But on the old tape players, and it was Ennio Morricone, of course, which is a huge influence. I love pretty much everything he's done, and he's done a lot, awful lot. I've got a huge collection of maybe 300 soundtracks of him.
Wow.
And there is also at the time there was Vangelis. Again, kind of crazy about what he's done. And I was listening also when I was a kid to classical music, Beethoven, Mozart, because my parents thought it would make me smart. Well, okay, no comments. And I used to listen also to electronic music made by Jean-Michel Jarre. I'm still totally fond of these first albums. The rest is not as interesting, but the 4 first albums, which is Equinox, Oxygène, Les Champs Magnétiques, Concert en Chine, they are absolutely fantastic electronic albums. It's the early age of electronica. And what else? And later on, I discovered John Williams, Jerry Goldsmith, all the big Hollywood composers.
I suppose I should ask as well, was there anything that specifically influenced anything that went into Taco Trouble 2?
Hard to say. It's hard to say. Maybe lately I've been listening to a lot of Bill Conti soundtracks. Bill Conti is a huge composer, and he did the Rocky, the music of the first 2 Rocky, Karate Kid, and many good movies, and it's a bit jazzy. I'm listening also a lot to a lot of Quincy Jones soundtracks. Very nice. But for Taco Trouble, I don't think there is a special influence I would point. Yeah, it's a bit of mixing all the influence I've got in my life, and I listen to a lot of music of any kind, and it's a lot about fun, actually. Like using the harpsichord, it's always funny. Using the beatbox and stuff like that, it's funny. And I've got new tools. Yeah. Since I wrote the soundtrack, I've bought a couple of tools that I think are amazing for future soundtracks.
That's great. I know that when we did the live screening, people were complimenting the music, and they especially liked the part when Dr. X stood up and walked to the stand. It was a really great piece of music there.
Yeah. It was fun, and the end was recorded. I think I did all the arrangement and the last the closing credits in 1 day or 2 days.
This is probably my fault.
No. Because I was also entering a competition, and I had to finish Taco Trouble to have my mind fully focused on the competition.
Yeah, it's just, I say that because I had the idea in mind that I might release the film in 2020.
Yeah.
So I was kind of, emailing Loïc, like saying, "Oh, is the film, is it nearly done? might be able to release this in 2020." Then of course he met the deadline and I didn't.
But which is the baseline for a composer. You can't have the composer jeopardizing the release date. It's been fired. It will get fired immediately. So composers have to be on budget and on time.
But I am glad though that I missed the date, because that allowed me to actually make the sound decent.
Oh.
And by having the music, having it to work with for a while meant I could, change the edit a bit, make everything cut it with the music a little bit tighter. Even though pretty much like when I'd sent the rough cuts and didn't deviate too much from them, because I had timed the lines pretty okay in the rough cuts to begin with, so the music fit even after I had the footage.
To be honest, when I was watching the movie, I couldn't spot the places where you where you've done the music edit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was done very well, barely noticeable, I guess, because even me, I couldn't notice. So I guess.
Well, I didn't cut anything out of the music.
No.
All the music, it's all there. I just maybe rearranged lengths of certain shots to just make it match the beat better in places,
Oh, sure.
But yeah, very, very. I'm happy that the music it kind of has, it preserves the feel of the original film while also being new and doing its own thing.
Yeah, and actually, now that you mention it, maybe my biggest influence when writing the soundtrack was the theme track you put, because they were really well chosen, I have to say, and it's a bit embarrassing sometimes because when you have a theme track that matches the action so well, you're thinking, what am I gonna do? What will my music bring to the scene? And I need to be inspired by this, but also take a lot of distance, because if I just do a copy paste, it brings nothing. So this kind of jazzy stuff, it was a good inspiration. So I wanted to keep that mood, and of course, the first thing I've done before doing Taco Trouble 2 was to re-watch Taco Trouble 1, and I think you provided me with the link to watch it. I watched it a long time ago because it's even featured in documentaries I've sent to you. So that's funny. It's like a full circle.
Yeah, I suppose I should explain that. Talking about a segment on French TV in 2004, talking about Brickfilms that you were featured on.
Yeah.
And I showed clips from Taco Trouble at the time.
Yeah, exactly. It was funny because I was releasing some stuff on the Brickfilms community, and this TV program, it's on the cultural channel called Arte, which is a German and French channel. They have this program called Tracks. I think it exists for 30 years, maybe more. They are always looking for the new trends and everything that's underground. And they reached me out. A journalist just sent me a mail saying you seem to be French and active inside the community of making movies with Lego figures. And I replied yes, and they say, okay, can we come to your place and we'll shoot. You will explain what you're doing, what the community is about, and I shot something for them. I did a kind of mock-up of their opening credits in the program. That was funny and totally unexpected. It was my 5 minutes of fame on TV, and now they are vanished. It won't happen anymore.
But I thought it was funny. Actually, one of those programs calls one of Andy Boyer and Dave Lenny's animations the first Brick film ever made, which of course now we know it's not true, but at the time that was sometimes said. Yes,
there were two programs. The one I'm talking about was a kind of RTE program, and the other one I don't remember when. It's on the same channel for sure, but I don't remember the program it was featured in.
Yeah, there's a couple of those from the time from a couple of European countries, and it's always funny. They always have the same like explanation of, move the figure a little bit, take a picture. Move the figure a little bit, take a picture. Which is, it's kind of like a known cliche among like stop motion people. There's always the same explanation of stop motion every time it's brought up somewhere in like DVD special features or something.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I guess I guess Brickfilms have been featured in programs all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get any other documentary or archive or whatever?
Actually, I suppose it'd be worth mentioning that you probably wouldn't know that Smeagol, if you remember Smeagol from brickfilms.com, he made a documentary about brick filming.
Okay.
That came out in 2017, like a feature-length documentary with interviews It like Spite Your Face, and Jay Silver's in it, and Chris Salt actually, and
I'd like to watch
all
that.
sorts of people. I could send you the link where you can watch it after this.
Great. Yeah, I remember him.
But actually, and Maxine Marion is in it as well. But I suppose I should explain. You know, we were talking about the Temp soundtrack because you've seen it and I made it. So, but nobody else knows what we're talking about. But I made a Temp soundtrack for Taco Trouble 2 with really crude MS Paint storyboards and like rough timings for the lines and everything. And I took a bunch of like Dave Brubeck music and music from other sources, like the very start when it's the voiceover intro. I had the Twin Peaks Firewalk With Me theme, and then when it's like going in the establishing shots had the Grand Theft Auto 3 theme, which struck me as hitting the right note. But yeah, so I feel like mentioning to people that making a rough cut of your film with the lines is a good idea, for the reason being that when I started working on Taco Trouble 2, I had the script, which is about 6 pages long. And, you know, the general wisdom going around is that a page of script is roughly a minute of film. So I was looking at this and I was kind of thinking, okay, the film's going to be about 6 or maybe 7, let's say, minutes long. That doesn't sound too bad. That won't be too difficult. It won't take too long. And then, of course, I started filming without making a rough cut. But then, because I needed to send something to you so you could start working on the music, I made the rough cut. And once I had it made, I suddenly realised, oh no, this is 11 minutes long. I had not accounted for that when I started making it at the standards that I did. So yeah, it took a bit longer than expected. And of course there were other difficulties along the way that kind of held it up. But yeah, next time I make a big project, I'm probably going to make a like storyboard rough cut first of all to see how long it'll roughly be. To have an understanding of how hard to go on it.
Well, I mean, I would highly recommend Storyboarder as a software. It's actually a free software. You can like generate like a virtual like camera with models, and you can get an idea of like what a certain shot would look like with a particular lens and that kind of stuff. And you can actually export them as boards. And you can kind of make a kind of virtual storyboard from that, which saves having to like draw and anything like that. So that could be somewhat helpful in the future. Yeah,
I know. I'll be doing things like that, and I would recommend that other people make rough cuts before starting films if they're making big projects, and it'd be relevant to know how long it might be, because previously I was making films with no scripts and no storyboards. So a lot of this is new to me, even if it's it might seem obvious to other people.
Well, I think like my experience in university really kind of pushed me to doing more like storyboards and also shot lists as well, because with that it's basically like everything that a storyboard does except just the descriptive side of things. You don't have to draw, but basically it's got to the point now where I rely on it so heavily that I couldn't imagine not doing it now.
And also I think another good thing about doing a storyboard is that if you have an idea in mind, but you can draw it and not be constrained by reality. So you'll make the best shot you have in mind, and then after that you have to figure out how to film it. Whereas if you started from trying to film it, you wouldn't try to make the better idea if you think it's too hard to set up in reality. Whereas if you storyboard it first and make the best possible idea, then you have to figure it out.
But it's not very different from making the music, actually. You just need to take distance. And when I'm making music for a movie or a competition, because I'm trying to attend competitions, you need to take distance and not rush on the keyboard and write or record immediately a lot of stuff. What you need to do is take distance, take notes, think about it, rest on it, and later when you start to have a sketch, and some rough ideas, then you can start recording stuff on your keyboard, recording ideas. But the intention is really paramount. Yeah, yeah. In the beginning, I mean, it's something I learned, but I was not like this. I didn't work like this in the past. And in the past, I would have a movie and watch it once, and 5 minutes after, starting to record stuff, and it does not produce a very good result.
And actually, I wonder, do you like to get a lot of notes or direction for how the music should go, or do you prefer to just be have free reign to do whatever you like?
Whatever. No,
okay.
Really having directions. It's what matters is that it has to fit what the director wants. It's just that, or the producer wants. And if he feels like feeding you with a lot of temp tracks, okay, so you can just listen to that, and you can try to copy that or not. You can have something very free, but well, we used to say that we are more creative when we have constraints, so maybe it's good to have a couple of directions. But what matters most is talking with the director, saying what is your intention, what do you want to mean, what do you want to explain, how the characters are feeling or something like that, and then it will tell you far more than usual notes, production notes, or even temp tracks. It's better to have a direct exchange to the directors. And of course, when you're dealing with Lego features, it's a tad different. But yeah, it's a lot about intentions first. Does the music has to tell a parallel story, or do you want to do some what we call the Mickey Mousing? Mickey Mousing is just it's like in the old movies, Tom and Jerry and whatever, when the music is really fit to the picture. Someone falls, you've got a fall on the horns or whatever. Someone is happy, you've got joyful music. Someone is angry, you've got stabs on the brass, and something like this. It's really it was the way the old cartoons were scored in the past. But yeah, it really depends on. But I don't care. I just adapt.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure if I was supposed to say more, because when I first got in contact with you, I was kind of just saying like, well, here's the original film. Hopefully it'll take inspiration from the original, but whatever you do, I'm sure it'll be great.
Yeah,
so,
I remember.
I was not sure if I was being a bit like, I'm not sure what the word would be, but like maybe I wasn't sure if you'd be thinking, well, what am I supposed to do? What's the directions? But no, obviously it worked.
Yeah, but I'm no John Williams, so it's okay. I don't need I just adapt. I just figure out something, and if it's not good, I can hear that as well. I won't be offended if a director says, "No, it's not good. You're fired."
But I kind of felt like I didn't know enough about music for films to be able to say anything. Like I wouldn't have had much to offer, if you know what I mean. All I would say would be, well, hopefully it fits and it's good. I wouldn't know how to explain, like, or even I wouldn't know what I would want particularly. But then, of course, you asked for the version with temp tracks, and then I that got me thinking. I mean, I didn't spend too long thinking, because I didn't want to get attached to the temp tracks, so I threw in the first things that I found that worked. But yeah,
okay.
It's good to know though that you're okay working that way.
Yeah, of course, and but the temp tracks, they really fit the mood. If the temp tracks would have been, I don't know, like death metal or something like this, I would have been probably more embarrassed in producing something. But
or if you've been going back to your punk roots.
This is possible. This is possible. I'm still not a very good guitar player, so.
Well, we probably have some common ground there, because I like a lot of that stuff. And also a lot of the electronic music. Most of the History of Brickfilms videos I've done, I've been using early electronic music. The idea sort of being like, it's like the formation of brick filming, so I'm kind of using the krautrock and early influential electronic stuff, which it seemed to fit with these like prehistoric brick films.
I do get the point, because in the first place is geek stuff, so geeks are listening to geek music, which is early electronics and progressive stuff, and ambient.
Yeah, and of course it fits in the background as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, the stuff that I used to, I didn't listen to it as much. I used to for quite a while. There was, I guess, kind of the equivalent of that was progressive rock, like of like the 70s and 80s, mostly 70s. It's kind of like that, like very sort of bizarre instrumentals and like constantly changing time signatures and stuff. Like it would be, one moment it's like slow and then it'll be fast, and then it's like you'll have like 10-minute long songs, and there'll be like the first like 2 minutes are like lyrics, but then there's like an 8-minute solo, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff is in the old Biff and Mario films, which is funny.
Yeah, you get a lot of that, like early Fleetwood Mac was kind of like that.
I've got a question. Have you met brick filmers in real life?
No.
That's funny.
Well,
I've met some.
I've seen some pictures from a meetup with you and Revmen and Stephen and Chris Salt and Robert Frost, maybe?
Yes, absolutely. It was in London. It happened in London. And I saw Josh a few years later. Now it's kind of a long time ago, because he was on a business trip in Paris. So he contacted me to hang out a little bit.
Yeah, I hope it would be nice if we do make another Attack of Trouble. It'd be nice if Revmen could provide a line or two.
Yeah, I think he would be happy to do that. He's kind of a busy man now, but he'll find time for brick filmers. I'm pretty sure of it.
But well, thank you so much for joining us. I feel like this has been a really interesting discussion, because I feel like we were talking about things that, certain aspects that we don't really always talk about a lot. We're always talking about specifically the brick films and that side of things, and it's always interesting to hear more about like the music and just like sound design in general.
Especially,
and so this is a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to talk about Taco Trouble and the good old brick films community.
Yeah, and of course, thanks again for the soundtrack.
You're welcome. It was very nice to do, and it was great work. And I have to say that when I saw the animation, even in the rough cut you sent me in the first place, I was kind of amazed, because I said to myself, wow, the set is incredibly huge and it requires a lot of bricks, I guess, and there are lots of people in the audience. And I remember that when I was animating stuff, I was very clumsy. I was always shaking the walls or the characters, and it made or the camera even worse. So the movies were shaky or not really well done. What you did is really impressive, animation-wise and picture-wise. It's there is a depth of field, and it really looks good. And when I was watching that, I was saying to myself, is this the new milestone in Lego movies? Because I've been away from the community for a while. I was like, do everyone has the quality so much improved in the last years that no, we can have this kind of movie that's great, and besides very funny. The lines are incredibly funny, even for a French guy like me.
Yeah, and of course that's all Andy and Dave.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's certainly some other films that I was inspired by that have come out in the recent years. The two biggest ones being The Cleaners and Beyond the 11th Dimension, as far as set and lighting goes.
It's really nice. Yeah, really nice. And the characters are funny. Yeah, it's really funny, and has all the qualities of a good comedy.
But I'm just really happy to, it since I'm doing like the work with preserving brick film history and whatnot, it really means a lot to me in particular to have some people involved with Taco Trouble 2 who were around in the brickfilms.com community in 2003, the same year the original film came out. So I was so happy that you agreed to do the music for the film.
Yeah, no, it was the film is an amazing achievement on every level, not just in like everything that you did, Penta, but also the soundtrack as well is fantastic.
Oh yeah, I agree about the soundtrack.
And we do agree about the movie as well. Yeah.
Yes, well, thank you.
Goodbye and thank you, and see you soon.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye. Thank you.